The second-generation Lexus RX is an interesting alternative to premium German SUVs. Despite its lower popularity, it is recognized for its low failure rate and high durability. What should you check before purchasing, and what should you expect during operation? The car debuted in 2003 as the second-generation RX. This model was codenamed XU-30. It became less off-road oriented, more streamlined, and even more asphalt-friendly. The body grew significantly, the wheelbase increased, and, consequently, the interior space increased. During this relatively short production run, the car underwent only one facelift in 2006, more technical than stylistic. The car never enjoyed the same popularity as its German counterparts due to its lack of diesel engines. A hybrid variant offers some compensation, but it wasn't introduced until 2005. Its strong selling point, however, is its low failure rate. The Lexus RX is a typical large crossover designed for on-road driving, often used for a very long time by its first owner. This car can still be a lot of fun to drive, but the ride is rather dignified and relaxed. The cabin isn't exactly spacious, but it showcases the high build quality of the brand's cars of the time. Well-cared-for examples still retain the pleasant aroma of genuine leather upholstery and don't experience any irritating creaks or imperfections. Designed primarily with American customers in mind, the seats are spacious, though poorly contoured. The Lexus RX is built on Toyota's K platform, designed for front-wheel drive and optional all-wheel drive, with a transversely mounted engine. This means the car shares some commonality with the Toyota Camry, as well as the Toyota Avalon and Sienna, making parts easier to find, especially aftermarket parts. A modified K platform was used to build subsequent generations of the RX. The car is equipped with independent suspension on both axles, air-assisted in some markets. The steering is hydraulically assisted in combustion models and electric in hybrid models. Four-wheel drive is permanent, controlled by a central differential, and in the RX 350 model, it is locked by a viscous clutch. The hybrid version's four-wheel drive system is operated independently by two drive units, a combustion engine and an electric motor in the front, and an electric motor in the rear. Its effectiveness in difficult conditions is poor. However, it helps accelerate from a standstill on slippery surfaces. Under the hood, the Lexus RX offers only V6 petrol engines. Of the four powertrain variants, one, the 400h, is a hybrid. The second-generation RX was the world's first mass-market hybrid SUV. Initially, the RX was powered by one of two engines, either 3.0-liter or 3.3-liter for the US market. They were designated the RX 300 and RX 330, respectively. They differed slightly in power, but were no speed demons. A significant performance improvement is only felt in the RX 350 model, which appeared in 2006 with a facelift. It now boasts 276 horsepower, ideal for a car in this class, though it's still not particularly dynamic. German brands offered more powerful engines in their SUVs. In 2004, in Europe, in 2005, a hybrid version debuted, based on a 3.3-liter engine, supported by one electric motor on the front axle and another on the rear axle. The gasoline engines without the hybrid drive were paired only with an automatic transmission, a conventional one with a torque converter and 5 gears. The hybrid used the company's classic ECVT continuously variable transmission. Both early production versions of the V6 engines are well-built Japanese designs from the MZ family, featuring a timing belt and variable valve timing. Their only drawback is their extreme sensitivity to elevated coolant temperatures. Therefore, you should take special care of the cooling system, and if the radiator is dirty or damaged, this happens quite often, take care of it immediately. Any fluid loss should not be ignored and should be taken seriously, promptly by visiting a mechanic or performing the diagnosis yourself. If these units overheat, repairs can cost thousands of euros. Replacing the head gaskets and rebuilding the cylinder heads costs around Euro 1,400 to 1,900. If you want to build a car for yourself and for years to come, meaning replacing the seals and piston rings and undergoing a comprehensive overhaul, the bill will quickly exceed €2,400, and that's not even a complete overhaul. In this regard, it's worth buying a Lexus RX in the summer during hot weather to test drive it and see if the engine has any overheating issues. An interesting feature is the non-interference timing belt design in these engines. If the belt breaks, simply realign the rollers and install a new belt. However, using poor quality oil or extending oil change intervals results in the seizure of the crankshaft bearings. These engines aren't bulletproof, but with proper care, they last a long time and provide reliable service. Following a facelift, a new petrol version of the RX 350 has appeared, powered by an engine from the iconic 2GR FE series. This engine, which has an impeccable reputation, features a chain-driven timing system. A common problem with timing systems is rattling camshaft variators. Interestingly, their noise-causing failure does not affect the operation of the engine or the timing belt drive. However, it's worth replacing them as a preventative measure, along with the entire timing belt set after 150,000 to 200,000 kilometers. Such a set includes one long primary chain and two smaller ones. Including the variators, the set costs around €480 to €600. The hybrid variant is based on the 3MZF engine, very similar to the pure petrol 3.3-liter engine. The hybrid drive itself is generally trouble-free, but after higher mileage, the traction battery performance may decrease, resulting in increased fuel consumption. Hybrid system repairs aren't a major problem for specialized repair shops, although you should expect relatively high bills. This isn't the same as for Toyotas of the same era, and replacing battery cells, for example, costs about 2 to 3 times more than the same battery in a Toyota hybrid. It's important to maintain the two cooling systems in a hybrid. They are separate for the combustion engine and the electrical system. If neglected, damage to the inverter can occur. Used ones cost around €950. To prevent this from happening, it's worth proactively replacing the electric cooling pump, which costs around €80. When choosing a Lexus RX, you should focus not on what's under the hood, but on its overall technical condition. It's important to remember that only the 350 and 400h versions offer satisfactory performance. The pure combustion versions consume an average of 11 to 13 liters per 100 kilometers, while the hybrid can achieve 10 liters per 100 kilometers, although much depends on the battery condition. Each of these engines, including the hybrid, can be successfully powered by gas. Typically, a nice-looking bodywork hides significant corrosion and rusted areas. Corrosion primarily affects the underbody, the wheel arches, and the components under the bumpers, front and rear beams. When buying an RX, it's worth checking under every possible piece of upholstery and be sure to inspect the trunk floor from all sides as well as the entire underbody. Despite the anti-corrosion protection used by many owners, these have lost their effectiveness and no longer serve their purpose. Water often penetrates the vehicle's cabin, resulting not only in internal floor corrosion, but also in window fogging in winter. This is due to numerous process holes and the age of the vehicles. Over time, factory seals and mounting points like roof rails can allow water to enter the interior. For these reasons, it's worth buying a Lexus RX between late fall and early spring. This is when the car's carpets are likely to get wet, indicating that it's not fully sealed. It's worth paying attention to the headlights, which are mediocre in durability, and the plastic lenses tend to dull and weaken the light emitted by the lamp. Water gets inside, and the lenses burn out. Original headlights can be purchased for around €360. Occasionally, new ones come up, and there are bargains on classified sites where you can get them cheaper. However, be careful not to buy headlights designed for the American market, as you might have trouble passing the inspection. Slightly less important are the rear lights, which also lose their shine, but as long as they're functional, there's no need to replace them. Their availability is even worse, though there are plenty of Chinese products that aren't homologated, but few people bother with them. The interior, for a Japanese model, suffers from numerous issues. Owners complain about ineffective seat heating, inoperable steering wheel buttons, burnt-out radio display backlights, and a lack of maintenance causing the CD changer to lock up. This may be due to the history of these cars. e.g. imported after an accident or flooding in the US. If the car is frequently parked in direct sunlight, the dashboard panels can crack. Of the mechanical components, the most risky is the suspension. Replacing some parts is problematic due to widespread corrosion. Worse still, some cars have air suspension, which is associated with high repair costs. Technically, these can be replaced with spring suspension, although it's worth noting that such a change is illegal. Corrosion also affects the braking system, which often means that the calipers, especially the rear ones, need to be rebuilt every time the brake discs are replaced. They often warp. The front discs are very small and not very efficient. Wear in the steering shaft or universal joint results in the steering wheel locking up when turning. Of course, it doesn't mean you can't turn. You'll simply feel some resistance and a knocking sound. It's worth replacing the universal joint or the entire shaft. Automatic transmissions in non-hybrid versions sometimes experience shifting issues, but repairs are relatively straightforward. Generally, these are durable transmissions. One was used for each engine. The ECVT transmission paired with the hybrid drivetrain is even more reliable. Transfer cases don't cause any problems, except for a little sweating. The drive shaft in the petrol versions can be replaced with an aftermarket replacement. It costs around €360. The rear-mounted hybrid drive motor is reliable and maintenance-free.